everyone, welcome back to Beyond the Veil Tarot and Astrology. My name is Candice Murray. I'll be your astrologer today. Thanks for joining me. I hope you guys are doing well. Depending on when you guys are watching this, happy Tuesday. That's when this is coming out, but some of you guys might be watching this over the next couple of weeks. This is going to be my video on the full moon in Aquarius. If you guys like my content and want to see more of it, make sure you click the button below and you're subscribed. Give me a thumbs up and drop me a comment. Let me know how you're feeling with these energies and what you're anticipating the full moon is going to be bringing you based off of your chart. If you guys haven't seen my videos before, I'm a Western astrologer and I focus on working both with the Sabian Symbols as well as tarot to better understand what's going on in the cosmos. Check out my website below at beyondtheveiltarot.com for tarot and astrology courses, candles, magic sessions, and much, much more. All right, so I'm excited for this, and if you guys have noticed, I've been getting into the habit of, as soon as we have a new moon, you guys have the full moon video coming out. I've finally kind of gotten this into sync, so I'm excited to be able to bring this to you guys early. We are going to be having a full moon in Aquarius on August 1st, 2023. And obviously I know we have people in different time zones, but this is going to be coming in at 11:31 a.m. on the Pacific time and 2:31 p.m. on Eastern. Adjust your clocks accordingly. But this is definitely going to be something that's going to be felt the day of. And with full moons, we give it about a day or two on each side, but this is a moon that's actually going to be building clear into like the 2nd and the 3rd of August. Now, 9 degrees of Aquarius is the degree. So we know that when we're working with the Sabian Symbols, as well as like, you know, the degree astrology, we can see so many different dynamics when we're looking at particular lunations or transits. So while it's in Aquarius, it's going to have like this Sagittarian vibe because it's coming in at 9 degrees. And so 9 degrees in degree astrology relates to things that might be foreign or abroad, highways, streets, films, religion, tourism, higher education, as well as borders. So this may be part of the hot topics that come up from this particular full moon. And we're going to be having it in a fixed air sign. So Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn and its modern day ruler is Uranus. It is the 11th sign of the zodiac, and it's fixed, which means it likes to hold that energy. And air is about, you know, intellectual topics. It is also about ideas and communication, things that are a little bit more abstract, especially when we're thinking about a full moon in Aquarius. So you guys may want to be taking a look back on the new moon in Aquarius that we had earlier this year on January 21st, 2023. We had a new moon at 1 degrees of Aquarius, and I don't know if you guys can forget that moon. It was in conjunction to Pluto. So oftentimes full moons are a completion of something that we've been working towards since that new moon was seeded. You may not be in Aquarius, but if you look at your chart, you're going to see Aquarius somewhere within the various houses. And that basically means that there is a completion or a highlighted kind of theme regarding this particular transit in that area of your chart, which will reflect on a particular topic. So if you guys stay tuned to the end, I'm going to take you through the 12 rising signs and talk about where this full moon will be taking place and pull a tarot card for you. But yeah, look back at that moon, right? We were planting seeds revolving around change. Really, change was the name of the game. Sun and moon in conjunction to Pluto within about 3 degrees was very potent. We might have felt this on a very personal level. Obviously, Aquarius deals with the collective because it has to do with the masses and other groups of people and the future and technology. It also is directly tied to politics and anything in regards to decisions that are being made for, you know, based off of like large groups. So, you know, politics and party decisions and things regarding Senate and Congress, at least here in the United States, may also be a hot topic. Now, you guys want to be mindful that this is happening in a fixed sign, and we've got a number of other planets also in other fixed placements. So if you happen to be in Aquarius, sun, moon, or rising from about 8 to 10 degrees, or you have any personal planets there, this might be a little bit more impactful for you. equally 8 to 10 degrees of the fixed signs. So Taurus, Leo, Scorpio, and Aquarius, you will be the most impacted by this particular full moon. Especially Scorpio. I'm looking at you, Scorpio. Scorpio, sun, moon, and risings, because we do have a lot of action also in Taurus as well as Leo. So this full moon is going to bring events likely that are going to affect other parts of your chart. So you may feel that pressure that's going to be kind of building around the time of the full moon. Now, in astrology, the full moon represents a culmination and an illumination of energy. It's a time of highlighted emotions, powerful energies, significant spiritual things kind of take place. And we feel like this climax that's going to be building the days leading up to the full moon. Now, when it happens to be in this particular sign of Aquarius, we're going to see themes revolving around intellectual pursuits, humanitarianism, innovation, and independence. And when the moon is full here, it will amplify these energies collectively and bring them to the forefront, especially in society or on the internet. So some stuff that kind of comes to mind for me when I think of Aquarius is individuality and authenticity. I think that's a huge focus with Aquarius because it really wants to kind of stick out. Even though it's a part of the group, it has this need to kind of go its own way, right? It's ruled by Uranus. And so I think that we can be finding that this is a time where we're being encouraged to embrace our unique qualities and expressing our true innermost selves, inspiring us to celebrate our individuality and stand out in the crowd. Now that seems kind of like counterproductive, right? Because Aquarius is about masses, but when we see this opposition that's going to be taking place, which always happens whenever we see oppositions between, the sun and the moon during a full moon, we really kind of see that we have to be able to do both. So there's some intense thing that's kind of bringing up both particular themes relating to that axis. So where Aquarius is about the masses, Leo is about the individual. And we see the sun in opposition to the moon, creating this full moon at the time of this lunation. This is also going to bring up themes revolving around social consciousness. Aquarius is a sign known for concern for the collective and its dedication to social causes. So during the full moon, there may be an emphasis on promoting equality, justice, and making a positive impact on society. Now, it'll encourage you to think beyond yourselves and consider the greater good. That's been a topic we've been hearing a lot about, the greater good, making sacrifices for the greater good, for the greater good. And likely because of the oppositions and the square, you're going to be asking yourself, how are these sacrifices that we're making for the greater good impacting me on an individual level and also my pocketbook? Now, a lot of that is because we have a real focus with the sun in its home ruling sign, Venus going retrograde in the same sign, and we're going to notice as the moon comes into the full moon, just shortly after, it's going to play ping pong and square off with Venus and Uranus, and we're going to start to see where these decisions that are being made about all of the future of our collective decisions are impacting us creatively, emotionally, and financially. So this is why I think this is a full moon that's going to kind of hit on the back end, like the 2nd and the 3rd of August, you're really going to see the effects of this unfold. But it's about thinking beyond ourselves, and it can be about thinking about the future. Aquarius is very much associated with the future and where we're going collectively, for good or for bad. I do anticipate there's going to be a very significant difference of opinion on the direction and where we're going. And you might notice with some of the aspects taking place with this moon, Mercury and Saturn in opposition, not everybody shares the same perspective for the direction that we should be taking moving forward. Now, with that being said, this is a wonderful time for innovation and progress. So because Aquarius is forward thinking, it's all about innovation and how we can make progress and take steps into the future. So it's not just collectively, but it's what we're doing on an individual level to be able to create our own future reality. And it's likely that it's possible that this full moon can spark new ideas. We can be feeling more inspired. There can be more opportunities for inventive thinking and finding unconventional solutions to problems. It is a time when the moon is in Aquarius, whether it's a full moon or not, to be breaking free from old patterns and embracing change. So I do think that we're going to be seeing that, being, a theme collectively. I do feel like some of the topics that are going to be touched on is, where we're all going when it comes to the future of finances and resources. There's no coincidence that we're hearing lots of talk about CBDCs right now, and where, especially here in the United States, they're wrapping up some of their kind of pilot programs relating to this, and its involvement also with the future of US currency. Now, I know we have people all over the world, so it may hit a little bit differently for everyone, but I think for all of us, I think it's pretty safe to say that we're starting to realize that in order to see the change that we want to see in the world, we have to be actually initiating those changes personally on a personal level, and it will likely create like a ripple effect where it's inspiring other people to do a lot of the same things. So I encourage you guys to take note of where you're feeling like, okay, I need to break out of this pattern. I need to make a change, even if it's uncomfortable and even if it doesn't resonate with everyone. Aquarius doesn't, like I said, doesn't have a problem going its own way. It's known for being a little rebellious at times and kind of breaking with social norms, which is cool because I think it's also going to stimulate opportunity for, intellectual stimulation, really interesting conversations, and people being able to share their perspectives, no matter how wild they are. Because Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, it is the planet of intellect and higher consciousness. So when we have a full moon in Aquarius, it is likely to stimulate our mental abilities, bringing clarity, insight, and likely a thirst for knowledge, and potentially even some of those conspiracies that can definitely come up with Aquarian type energy. It is a favorable time generally for engaging with other people and having intellectual discussions and expanding on our perspectives. But keep in mind that because of the Mercury aspects that are taking place during this moon, like I said, not everybody is going to share the same perspective. So what I like about the axis of Leo and Aquarius is the ability to show your own talent, to show your own beliefs, to really kind of act that out, and share it with other people and be able to kind of have like this melting pot of ideas where it's okay to stand out as long as we're all kind of going in the general direction of where we need to go collectively. You can't talk about Aquarius and Leo without also touching on the need for community and friendship. Because Aquarius is a sign that values friendship and community, the full moon here can definitely highlight the importance of social connections and collaborative efforts. It's definitely a good time to strengthen bonds with like-minded individuals and work together towards a common goal. So joining groups, joining networks, joining associations, planning time with your friends and like-minded people are likely going to be beneficial, especially if you're trying to kind of work through something on a personal level. At the time of this full moon, the sun is going to be in Leo and Venus will be retrograde in the same sign. So many of us are going to be reevaluating, what do I love and what makes my heart sing and what am I participating in that I really enjoy? As we make those decisions on a personal level, we may find that there is some natural conclusion or decisions or endings that happen with our friendships. So for some of us, it can be, hey, I'm not aligning with this group anymore. I'm kind of closing that door. For others, it can be, I am finally stepping into, a new creative project. I am finally kind of completing a personal project. Now it's time to go and share it with the masses, to meet with, your acting groups and your friends and have parties and, get-togethers and be able to kind of show what you've been working on. So both of these signs need each other. That's the beauty of the 12 signs, is that the polarity represent two sides of the same, coin basically, and where we find the ability to kind of find the balance. The challenge here is that it's going to be challenging to find the balance, especially in the 2nd and the 3rd of August, as we start seeing this moon here coming into a square with Jupiter and Uranus. So you're going to see that there's going to be a difference of opinion when it comes to values and spending and what we actually want, what we want to invest our money in, what we want to invest our time in. And we might start to kind of notice where there's some conflict that's kind of getting drummed up within our social groups that's really pushing us to make some big changes in regards to our value systems. Now, I do believe it is possible to strengthen bonds in certain friendships. A full moon here can show you exactly who your people are. The right people can kind of turn up for you right when you need them. It doesn't have to be a negative thing. And I think it's really important to remember that we all need a solid group or a friend that we can kind of call on when things get challenging. So we might find that if we do belong to a professional group or a network or an online group, or, you know, even a union, right? Because Aquarius can be connected to that. There is that need to go and take that personal issue to that group and say, okay, you know, what do you guys think? Like, let's have a meeting of the minds and really talk about it and see if we can kind of come up with a solution. Embracing unconventionality, I think that's huge because Aquarius is often associated with nonconformity and embracing what's unconventional. This full moon, you might feel compelled to break free from society's expectations, think outside of the box, and explore alternative approaches to life. So once again, this is where you kind of, you know, think you're going left and you make a hard right. Uranus wobbles, you know, it doesn't exactly go in a uniform kind of direction or fashion. It wobbles on its axis and it kind of goes up and down and it can kind of be a little erratic. So when I think of a full moon in Aquarius, it's where it's like something pops up that's kind of out of the box and out of the blue and something that we don't always see coming. Uranus has associations with electricity, right? And like lightning. So it's not unusual when we see full moons in Aquarius that there is some kind of technological advancement that comes out of the blue. There is some kind of new app or new social platform that's suddenly kind of buzzing. We do hear a lot more about groups of people meeting and decisions that are being made and like movements that are taking place. And likely these things can happen out of the blue unexpectedly. I do think you'll see more of that once again as the moon continues to go through Aquarius in the 2 days following and starts to come into a square with Uranus, and that's when there's going to be some kind of action that's being taken. Before I get to the aspects, I do want to read you guys the Sabian symbol. And as most of you guys know, when we're working with the Sabian symbols, we want to round up. So because this is a full moon that's going to be taking place at 9 degrees and 15 minutes, we're going to be reading the Sabian symbol for 10 degrees of Aquarius. And those of you guys who don't have this book or you're wondering where you can find it, if you guys check my links below, there is a Amazon link for all of my books and decks that I use on this channel. And this is going to be page 344, Aquarius 10. A popularity that proves ephemeral. The word is appropriation. The theme is swinging of the pendulum. The symbol speaks to having the courage to keep moving forward even when the going gets rough or when it seems that there's no appreciation or effort of accomplishment. The image of a popularity that proves ephemeral alludes to the inevitable downfall or personal rejection that every individual will experience at some time in their life. The implication is that success is usually that success is actually the greatest point of challenge in any experience. The average person is inclined to rest on his laurels when he hears applause, while the individual with foresight knows that eventually the pendulum will swing in the other direction. The suggestion here is to learn to use the praise and approval of others as an incentive to higher achievement while looking within for any ultimate source of strength or sustainment. At its highest, the symbol represents self-confidence and fortitude in the face of discouragement and criticism. Watch for using others or going along with the crowd in hopes of gaining personal advantage. The accent is on rejection and disappointment. You could be criticized or ignored by those who previously patted you on the back and praised your efforts or performance. Your greatest advantage lies in being yourself, and if you aren't appreciated where you are, find a friendlier environment. Do your best to let the chips fall where they may. Guard against trying to please everyone. It can't be done. Stepping stones are trendiness, elusiveness, change, instability, momentary, passing, perishable, short-lived, temporary, or disappearing. Something that really kind of stuck with me is like, you know, when I think of the difference between Leo and Aquarius is like Leo is on stage, right? And it wants that approval and appreciation and recognition. It wants the spotlight.
And as Venus is retrograding through the sign and it's squaring off with both Jupiter and Uranus, part of the lessons of this Venus retrograde is going to be about not seeking approval of other people, like not doing things just because we want praise or appreciation or we want the spotlight, like learning to find new ways of being able to express ourselves without doing it for validation, you know, creating for the sake of creating, or doing something purely because it makes us happy, not because we're trying to kind of, gain attention or gain a following. And I like that they use the swinging of the pendulum. That's just like, things may be good, but you know what? Like, enjoy it while it lasts, because it's not always necessarily going to be going in this direction. And that the perspective of the crowd, right, could change at any given moment. We've all like gone to like a comedy show, right? And you see that, you know, maybe one comedian comes up and, you know, he's doing okay, and then somebody comes up and like their jokes aren't as funny and they're not getting the appreciation or like the response from the crowd. And then like the final act comes on and everybody is like cheering and like, you know, really possibly there to see that person. I think this is a full moon that may potentially be a gauge in kind of showing you if you're going in the right direction. And if you're not, it doesn't necessarily mean that the responses that you're getting from other people are an indication of you doing good or bad. I think it's about your personal feelings, right? Keep in mind, this is all squaring Jupiter in Taurus, which is about expanding our own personal values and our self-esteem, squaring Uranus, which is also going to be about significant changes emotionally and how we're responding to our peers, if our peers make us feel like we're, you know, valuable or not. And the whole Venus retrograde with, you know, the square to Jupiter and Uranus several times, I think is we're still leaning into and figuring out, you know, what we love, what we value, what we are celebrating, what our talents are. And we're going to see a couple upsets and some upheaval throughout that retrograde, because things will change every time Venus squares Uranus. So this may be that time where you're sharing things with other people and you may not necessarily potentially get the response that you want from others. And if you don't, then it's just kind of like you have to kind of keep on keeping on, you know, like trying to kind of stay in your lane and not allowing that to kind of bring you down. If you're not getting the response that you want, your greatest advantage lies in, you know, being yourself. If you aren't appreciated, going to a friendlier environment. I think this is interesting because I think some people are going to start to kind of realize that not everybody is cheering on their accomplishments. This is definitely like a theme I've seen with clients the last week or two, where, you know, some individuals, particularly the fixed signs, have been really having a difficult time with making progress. You know, celebrating big milestones like, you know, buying their first house or settling into a relationship and getting married, launching businesses, having kids. Some of the things that you see within the axis of the 11th and the 5th house. And, you know, when this particular moon hits, the South Node is now in Libra. So we are going to really start seeing the effects of some of that breakdown in relationships as a result of not necessarily getting the recognition that we need. So the question is that when this pendulum is swinging around the time of the full moon, are you going to allow the potential of not having support to delay your process of figuring out, you know, what makes you happy and what your goals are? Aquarius is associated with making wishes, right? It's kind of like the candles on a birthday cake. So if you guys go back and look at some of the intentions you were setting at the beginning of the year, this can be a time where it's coming to fulfillment, but it can also be a time where you're kind of feeling like it's not necessarily quite hitting that mark that you were hoping that it could hit, unfortunately. And whether or not you're going to let the public reception of it affect your self-esteem, right? A lot of people have been asking me about launching businesses and starting new projects and, you know, making some big moves. And something that I would remind everybody right now is that there are quite a few planets in a retrograde. Pluto, Saturn, Neptune, Venus at the time of this moon. And then pretty soon we're going to see Jupiter and Uranus and Mercury join as well. So things are slowing down, particularly those who are like creative or self-employed or people who are wanting to launch new businesses associated with like art or design, anything that's going to be, you know, going off and doing something loud and creative. The astrology is not really supporting that at the moment. So I would caution some people against trying to launch something during this particular full moon, especially when we see a number of challenging aspects that the moon is going to be making just shortly after this lunation. If you guys are wanting something that's going to be more stable, you're going to be wanting to wait until we get closer, probably to like Virgo season. I'm thinking like the sweet spot is when Venus is direct and, you know, Mercury is direct, and we're getting into kind of like the mid-September territory. That's when we're going to start to see trines between, you know, the planets and earth signs as well. So I do think we'll see more stability there. In terms of the aspects, I mean, obviously, you know, the aspects make everything when it comes to a chart. This is really going to determine, you know, how the actual new or full moon is going to play out. And this is why I've been really adamant about talking about the aspects in my videos, because not all new and full moons are created equal. So now I'm going to take you guys through the aspects of the full moon, and I want to show you what my hot take is on some of the aspects, including the chart ruler for the full moon in Aquarius. All right, so for starters, obviously the full moon is going to be the opposition between the sun and the moon. All right, so this represents that polarity of the two highlighting one another. The sun in Leo is strong because it's in its home ruling sign. And what I think is kind of cool is that Leo, like I said, is the individual and Aquarius is the group. So there is some need for the individual to be able to kind of share with the group and bring something to some kind of completion and show this to other individuals. So this can be a time with the full moon Aquarius where there's parties, there's gatherings, there's meetings, there's celebrations that are going on. And the sun being in its sign, I think, is actually going to be giving more strength to the sun, which basically means even if things don't go so well when it comes to collective groups, the sun in Leo is very resilient, and it's going to have the opportunity to bounce back and go, okay, you know, I'm just going to let it roll off my back. I'm going to do me. Keep in mind that as the sun keeps moving through through Leo, it's going to have to square off with Jupiter, as well as Uranus, the same way that Mars, Mercury, and Venus have. In fact, as Venus retrogrades, it's going to reactivate that square several times. So I feel like based off of how things go with this particular lunation, it's setting us up actually for 2 weeks when we have the new moon that's going to be taking place in Leo, where many people are going to hit restart. Venus is going to be close in proximity to that particular new moon. And I could see the next 2 weeks as kind of being like this breakdown that's like, okay, my goals are changing, or I've completed that goal, on to the next thing, or I kind of, you know, made this decision about a friend group or a group that I belong to, and now I'm going my own way. This is going to be a huge theme. I think part of this is also because at the time of the full moon, we are going to see Venus, which is about relationships, and it is the South Node past, you know, ruler, is in a square to Uranus. That's one of the strongest aspects that we can see, because Uranus rules, obviously, Aquarius. It's the modern day ruler. And this does seem to be indicating that there is some kind of discord that's going on. I've seen some of people's comments talking about, you know, strife with neighbors and changes with relationships and like not always seeing eye to eye with people at work. I don't think that that's purely connected to this particular moon, but I do think the fact that Uranus is in a pretty tight square to Venus is going to indicate that for the better part of the next 2 weeks, until we're coming into the new moon energy, there is like a breakdown and a dismantling that's going on of relationships because people aren't on the same page. We know that Leo placements do bring drama, right? That's why they're connected to kind of playing that role and wearing their heart on their sleeve and being creative and playful. But as you start to see the moon come into opposition with Venus in a square to Uranus, you're going to see like the big fireworks that are going to be taking place. I also think of the fact that the Sun-Jupiter square is building. So we're going to see that with that, you know, square that's going to start being felt between Jupiter and Taurus and the sun in Leo, there's expanding circumstances. So there's going to be feeling that events are larger and more dynamic than usual. Jupiter in Taurus is expanding our physical experience, our money, our resources, our banking situations. It's also about some of these larger companies and businesses wanting more. Yeah, it's, you know, it's a weird time. I mean, I'm going to talk about this a little bit more in my Venus retrograde part 2 on Thursday, but What's really piqued my interest with this square is just what's been going on with this shutdown in Hollywood, how, apparently there's like a strike going on with the actors because they're not okay with the fact that some of the major studios are wanting to innovate and they're wanting to introduce AI, and they want to like scan their faces to be able to kind of have them forever. So if they want to utilize them in future films, they can. So I think part of that is that Uranus is involved. Venus and Uranus are squaring, and Uranus can be about future innovations in art. And Venus is retrograde, so she's realizing, oh, something is changing. I'm not okay with this. It's not sitting right with me. I think a lot of it is that, actors may potentially have concerns over what that means as to whether or not they're getting paid for this. I would think on an individual level, as a actor or an actress, what control they have over the roles that they may be playing. Many actors and actresses obviously get a say in ultimately what roles they're going to be playing and care a lot about curating the type of career in movies that they ultimately end up kind of, performing in. So I think that this could also be taking away from the individual side of this, the art of it as well. So I do think we're going to hear more about that. I do also think we're going to hear more about the money relating to the industry and where, it like almost like technology is taking away from the future of artistic expression. So whether it's like artificial art that's being generated or it's going to be the stuff going on with movies, I think we're going to see a lot of people in the creative field who are going to be disgruntled and pushing back against larger companies or groups, Aquarius. Now, the dispositor of the full moon obviously is Uranus, and so that's why I keep talking about these planets in Leo in a square to Uranus, because it's representing the bigger upset of like where we're all going on a collective level if we're starting to like give away our personal freedom, right, Uranus, and where decisions are being made across the board, by groups that we're not having a say in. So if it's not that, then it's going to be also connected to this whole thing with like banking and whether or not there is a natural, like awakening and uprising that happens collectively. I think like Uranus and Aquarius is like about that kind of collective spirit. And so I have hopes that there can be an awakening that takes place where people start to kind of realize that actually there are groups that are deciding the fate of your financial future and whether or not you are going to be able to utilize dollars as currency anymore, or whether or not you're going to have control over what you're spending. This ties into Aquarius and also like politics and like what politicians are having to say about the future of resources and money. So I think we're going to hear a lot more about that as well. Obviously, I think of like the larger kind of companies and what politicians might have to say about that. So I heard recently, my husband was telling me about how I guess Elizabeth Warren is not thrilled about this, Tesla, Elon Musk having ownership of Twitter. So it reminds me of this significantly, where you're going to see politicians that are going to be pushing back against individuals and their ownership when it comes to like technology or perhaps even media. Now, if we look at this from the flip side, the traditional ruler of Aquarius is Saturn, and Saturn is retrograde in Pisces. So there is still this slow kind of breaking down, things dissolving behind the scenes. Saturn is second house to Aquarius, so it is kind of reflecting on this reevaluation of where everything is kind of falling away in regards to the financial world. I've been saying for a long time it's an emperor has no clothes moment, where I think we're all collectively going to start realizing that dollars are being created at a bank in a system, whether it's being printed or it's being, just basically cooked up by giving out loans. I don't think that people realize some of the potential effects that can be taking place over the next couple of months financially. And I think that, the banks, and I also think that everybody who's kind of working within that realm know that, which is why there is such a incentive or drive towards, a cashless society, why there's also a drive right now to be incentivizing people to purely be paying, by card. And also maybe discouraging people from, having control over their resources. But I don't think everybody is really aware of some of the effects that might be coming down the line, because it's beyond just not having control of your resources. It's when it's spent, how it's spent, what it's spent on. And when people realize that it could potentially be a situation that could create negative interest rates, which is, you know, basically punishing people who are saving, and really pushing people to spend and consume. Otherwise, there might be things that expire. You start to realize the actual effects of like CBDCs and how it could be quite a scary thing. Saturn is also in opposition to Mercury, okay, in the sign of Virgo. So Mercury is in its ruling sign, very straight to the point, analytical, organized, focused, wants to serve, wants to get down to basics. I think with the Mercury-Saturn opposition, to me, it's like kind of getting your hand slapped with a ruler. It's like the teacher saying, no, you can't do that. You know, go sit down in your seat. And it's concerning because I feel like there is going to be a limitation of communication. There is going to possibly be a move to be able to silence or limit what information is actually circulating. I've been watching some stuff recently from some of my like doctors and stuff that I follow on YouTube, and something that's been brought up recently is just all of the talk about the FDA and their affiliation and basically association with the World Health Organization, and how if you really kind of follow that and you look into the money and the connection with the FDA, they're very strongly tied to big business and essentially being paid by some of these food companies that know that they're not necessarily making the healthiest food for individuals, especially here in the United States. Our, you know, FDA regulations are so different than a lot of other countries. You know, we are really kind of trailing behind, especially when it comes to GMOs and all kinds of other foods, additives and carcinogens and things that we allow in our food. So I think that there's actually going to be a move to, you know, push back. It's already kind of happening against, you know, misinformation, right? And you're going to hear more censorship around or revolving around people talking about health and food and additives. And, you know, FDA is not, it's food and drugs. So it's not necessarily limited to just food. I think we're going to hear more about pharmaceuticals here as well. And we might start hearing some really harsh comments from superiors revolving around, you know, what we should or should not be saying about finances, about food and drug, especially Mercury can deal with social media. So I'm wondering if this is going to be a new wave of potential censorship, especially against people who might be Virgo type individuals. So, you know, I think of like doctors and medics and nurses and, you know, people who are here to kind of help heal. I have hope, though, that as Mercury continues to move through Virgo, and it's going to go through retrograde here in about 2 months and start coming into a trine with Jupiter and Uranus, that the truth will prevail, the facts and the figures, especially because Taurus is physical. And whether this is physical samples or information that we're getting from food or, you know, potentially even the earth or contamination samples, we're going to start to be able to start going like, okay, this is a problem, right? We're starting to see the numbers and how it's affecting the planet or how it's affecting our bodies. All right, so I think with obviously the Venus-Uranus square, just going back to this, just expect that there's going to be shaking up of relationships. That's just in the skies basically until the better part of October, but you're going to feel this strongly right around the time of this moon, and it is very likely that we might find that friends are not always, you know, our friends. They're not always our people. We might find that certain relationships have different goals than we were hoping, and we might start to see where there is a bit of like a standoff in terms of how our peers or our partners are viewing what their needs are and how it might differ from ours. And the beauty of this full moon is being able to go, okay, you know what, that's what your belief is. This is what my belief is. We don't have to agree, but we can all, you know, agree to disagree, but at the same time, try to be creating the space where everybody can kind of do their own thing. So try to keep that in mind as you're kind of moving through some of this stuff, because you might start to notice where there's collective drama going on with friends or relationships, and the need to kind of honor that sometimes people need to totally Uranian out and go like, nope, I'm flipping this on its head. It doesn't work for me anymore. Pluto is still square the nodes. That's going to be something that we're going to be feeling very strongly all the way through the end of August. That's starting here now, as I'm filming this in the third week of July. It's very intense, guys. This is that pressure cooker that I was talking about. Pluto in a square to the nodes is essentially in so many ways saying, okay, there are some uncomfortable changes afoot. We need to be focusing on confronting power struggles right now. If you're watching this in the mid-July period, early, just keep in mind that anytime after the new moon that took place in Cancer on pretty much all the way through like the 22nd, the 23rd of July, that is that intense buildup that is also showing you where something is not quite right, and we're starting to kind of feel like there's something that's threatening our emotional security. So a lot of this full moon is like the response to that. That's like, okay, that's threatening and this isn't working. So now I'm going to kind of change things up a little bit. Be mindful that those power struggles are out and about. But I think that, the beauty, once again, bringing it back to Venus, is that Venus has the opportunity with the trine to the North Node to say, I know what I need. I know what is going to make me happiest. I know what's right. And unfortunately, some of these things aren't going to resonate with other people, and it's not going to be their preferences, and it's not going to be what they actually need. And so in some cases, if you're experiencing a little bit of like a personal crisis, you can go and connect to the people that know you best and say, I need some support, what do you think? And you might actually get some really good feedback. In other cases, people might find that, friends or social groups are not necessarily supportive of something that might be going on in your own personal love life, and you might have some friends that are kind of egging you on and encouraging you to have like your hot girl summer. So it really depends on your chart. But Venus retrograde in Leo is reevaluating what she loves and what she wants to participate in and what she needs, and rethinking responses and reactions to other people. I think the trine to the North Node in Aries is loving thyself, honoring thyself. And at the same time, we have a sextile to the South Node, which is actively clearing imbalances in relationships. And so if you're somebody who's going through a bit of like a rocky point emotionally with a relationship, sometimes, having a little bit of space and being able to connect with your friends and having some time with those who know you best might be the perfect answer, right? That might be the best solution for the time being, just to kind of bring you back to center and help you kind of realize, what you need sometimes even outside of relationships. And probably one of the more dynamic energies of this is going to be the Mars trine Jupiter. Mars isn't tied in any way, shape, or form to this particular full moon. In fact, Aquarius and Virgo, they quincunx each other. So I think that might be helpful for the Mercury-Saturn opposition, that we're not quite seeing it, especially because this is 8th house to Aquarius. So it's kind of hidden. And it might represent, secrets and things kind of coming out, or secret information being released. So I think in that case, the quincunx is actually good, although it might talk about how on an emotional level, something is kind of getting irritated based off of the things that we're not saying. But Mars is in a trine to Jupiter, which, if you guys saw my Mars and Virgo video, I talk about how first Mars was met with an opposition to Saturn, and it was like irritating, and we felt limited, and we felt like we were, being kind of slowed down in a way, which is really aggravating. But once we got over that speed bump and that hurdle, then we start to see Mars coming into a trine with Jupiter, which basically, in my mind, indicates that action yields reward. Something that is being seeded, something that is happening right around this time is likely going to bring you significant physical or financial results, especially with Jupiter being in the sign of Taurus. So it can be about wealth. So you don't quite see it because it's in a sign that is not as visible by Aquarius, but it is there. So taking some daring, actions, or making a decision to say, no, this is not the direction that I want to go in. This isn't my goal anymore. I'm getting back down to basics, or I'm focusing on kind of really healing or, tending to something. It's actually going to play out in the long run, especially considering the fact that, Virgo can, in some cases, because it's 12th house to Libra, talk about where we realize that something's out of sync in relationships, something's not perfect, there's something that's not working that needs to be healed or kind of worked on. And so for some of us, it might mean like, I can't go and do the social thing right now. I got to be focusing on, you know, getting X, Y, and Z done on my to-do list, or focusing on healthier habits. So could there be some pushback? Perhaps, especially because Aquarius is a sign that's about like partying and having a good time. I definitely think that there may be certain people out there that resonate with, you know, the side of the Virgo side of this that's like, I'm focusing on having fun in healthier ways. I'm focusing on spending my time and my energy and my money in healthier ways, and not necessarily, you know, going and having all of the party time that we might see that some people are doing with the full moon in Aquarius. And instead using that time to be productive, using that time to be focusing on healthier habits, and not kind of just following the crowd, right? Instead, kind of going your own way. Now, once again, for who this is going to affect the most, Aquarius, Sun, Moon, and Rising, around 8 to 10 degrees, and 8 to 10 degrees of the fixed signs. But if you happen to have any personal planets around 8 to 10 degrees of Aquarius, so if you have like your Mars, your Venus, your nodes are there, or a significant midpoint, this can be really important for you. For ritual ideas that I have for this full moon, because this is an air element, I recommend smudging. So if you want to, you know, burn sage or Palo Santo, or you have incense that you want to burn, that can be wonderful. I also really like working with chimes or bells, or sound. That can be really helpful, or frequencies. So like energy healing can be good during this time. And words of power. So if you're wanting to write down your intentions, if you're wanting to have specific mantras or invocations that you want to do, it would be a good time to do that. Those of you guys who like to work with herbs, I would recommend using comfrey, rosemary, fennel, or valerian. For oils, I would recommend cedar, juniper berry, or pine. But if you want to make it easy and you just want to use incense, I would recommend using frankincense, because this can be a really good scent that you can use while you're doing any like meditation or any intention related work. And if you like crystals, I would recommend using aquamarine, moonstone, moldavite, or angelite. These can all be really helpful in navigating these Aquarian energies. And for those of you guys who read tarot, the star is actually the card that is associated with Aquarius, and the Fool, which has associations with Uranus. So you can work with either one of these. If you're wanting to kind of go off your own way and do your own thing and be on an adventure, you might lean more towards maybe meditating with the Fool card. If you're wanting to do more work revolving around healing and connecting with other people collectively, you might want to work with the Star card. And if you're somebody who's into working with planetary hours, I would recommend working with the hour of Saturn for lighting candles or setting any of your intentions. Now I'm going to read to you guys now the 12 rising sign predictions that I have. This is going to be for all 12 rising signs, and I'm going to be using the whole sign method. Once again, I am a Western astrologer, so that's what I practice. If you want to listen for your Placidus reading, I'm a Placidus user myself, but for the sake of these videos, I make it in whole sign because it's a little bit easier. You want to be listening for about 9 to 10 degrees of Aquarius. So you want to find which house that's in your chart. You may have to listen to more than one sign. Equally, if you want to listen to this for your, your progress chart, you can do that. But you're going to make the most out of my readings if you listen to your rising sign prediction, followed by your sun, followed by your moon sign. Likely the rising sign is going to be the most accurate, while the sun sign might relate more to your career, and the moon sign might be more for you emotionally. I would recommend listening to your moon sign. I mean, it is a full moon, so that can be really helpful in getting an idea of what direction this is going in. And I'm gonna take this through the 12 signs. Let's see. All right, so this is going to be the prediction for Aries and Aries rising. What's up, Aries? You're gonna be having a full moon in Aquarius. It's gonna be taking place in your natal 11th house, which deals with other people. Okay, so this is about goals, networks, friends, parties, get-togethers, gatherings. So you might notice that this is more of the theme of the particular full moon for you. And at the time of the full moon, the ruler of this is sitting in your second house of money and resources and anything in regards to your self-esteem. So a full moon in the 11th house that is ruled by and will also eventually square Uranus indicates that there can be some things going on where your goals revolving around your finances are changing. Perhaps like you're reevaluating whether or not it's time for you to let go of an old goal, maybe making changes in how you make money. And I would just be mindful of there being some sensitivity revolving around borrowing and lending with friends. But I do think that it is possible that there can also be opportunities for you to be joining with other people and sharing with other people, and that connection that you're having with them can help you feel more so supported, or more so just feeling good about what you have to offer, right? And there can be like group funding stuff that can come up as well. So if you're looking to like share with a group or do something, it can be donation based, and it can be something that can also bring more value to you during this particular full moon. Makes sense. You guys got the Four of Wands. So this is about partying, getting together, celebrating temporary spaces, hitting some goals. And this might be goals in terms of like a group project. This might be celebrating the fact that something goes well. This might be bringing people together and, you know, having a get together and having a good time. This can also be a card that comes up for like weddings and ceremonies, birthdays, and other celebrations. So this can be something that's going on with the family as well, because the moon is connected to the 4th house. So I'm wondering, like, is it a get together at home? Is there some big surprise that's, you know, being had in regards to friends or relatives, and some kind of news that's worth celebrating? It definitely looks like it. Good luck, Aries. All right, so we've got Taurus and Taurus rising. You'll be having a full moon in Aquarius. This will be in your natal 10th house, which deals with your career. Taurus, this is a very dynamic energy because a full moon in the 10th house can bring really big things in regards to career changes, in regards to your public status. There can be jobs that are suddenly appearing and like doors are opening. Some of you guys may also see that there's an opportunity for you to have like a big change, like professionally. So especially with groups of people. So if you're somebody who's been like waiting to like launch something, this might be the time that you're getting ready to launch something. It's interesting that this particular moon is ruled by Uranus, and you have Uranus in your 1st house, and it's also like going to be eventually squaring within a day of this particular full moon. It makes me feel like this is much more about a group that's putting something together and you kind of watching it, you know, come together or go down. It can also be about how you personally are responding to some of these changes, and it can be about putting yourself more so in the spotlight and being seen very differently out in the world. So physical changes, status changes, job changes are very visible. Obviously, like I said, this is a little bit more dynamic for the fixed rising signs. So if you happen to be one of those Tauruses that are around like, you know, 9-10 degrees, you're going to be feeling that push. But I like this square also to Jupiter, because I feel like you're optimistic about some of the new things that you're going to be putting out into the world. And you are the focal point, right, between this opposition to planets in your 4th house. So where there's big things happening out in the world with your career and your status, you're a little bit more active when it comes to like home and family and like, you know, stuff that's going on in the domestic front. And that Jupiter-Uranus is the focal point of the square. So it's all going to be about how do you respond to change? Personal change, change out in the world in terms of your career, change with your family. Are you the one initiating that change? I'm sure the Venus retrograde is quite active at this time, and there is a lot of reevaluating the past and like your relationship with your ancestors or your family. And you know, it's just a time where you're just feeling like, okay, I've been doing the family stuff. I'm also kind of in a pinch because I'm getting pulled in both directions, but like the show must go on, and I'm really putting myself out there. So it does look positive for, you know, big completions in regards to your career. But I do get the impression that it's at what cost, right? Are you spreading yourself a little thin? That's kind of the vibe that I'm getting looking at this. The card that I got for you is the Four of Cups, which can be a card that is about not feeling, completely content with something, or feeling like you might have kind of slightly missed the mark, or, not being totally grateful or appreciative of everything. I want to remind you that Sabian symbol, right? It's like if you don't quite get the recognition or the feedback that you're looking for, you have to keep going, like keep it moving, like find a better environment and find a better audience or other people who are going to be appreciative of what you have. Because this makes me feel like you might be putting something out there and then you're like, oh, it wasn't as well received as I wanted it to be, or I didn't get the traction that I was hoping, and kind of beating yourself up. And the Four of Cups is about not staying in that situation. It's about seeing the people who do give you the high fives and the people who do give you the positive feedback, and not harping too much on the negative. Okay? Good luck, Taurus. For Gemini and Gemini rising, you are going to be having a full moon in Aquarius in your natal 9th house. Which is a sister sign. So if you have Gemini, Sun, Moon, or Rising, 8 to 10 degrees of that particular sign, you're going to be experiencing a trine. So it's going to be friendly and harmonious. So there's something working between your 1st house and your 9th house. For me, this is all about opening up your beliefs and your philosophy and your perspective, right? And a full moon in the 9th house can be graduating, it can be completing a program, it can be going on a trip, it could be planning a trip, it can be meeting with a mentor, completing something in regards to publishing or learning, or connecting with like a mentor or a guru, right? The challenge here, and it's for everyone, is that we are seeing some squares and oppositions to the fixed signs. So the ruler, Uranus, is in the 12th house, which means to me it might feel like you're having like a bit of like a crisis of faith, and there's something completing or changing about, your perspective of like the world in general. The oppositions to the 3rd house is about communication and like relational information. So I get the impression like you're trying to learn something, in a higher way that you can then kind of regurgitate and break down and make it more easily digestible. So maybe you're completing some kind of training and now you're getting ready to, write, teach, share something with like other people, and you're having to find a way to kind of water it down so it's more easily understood. This can also be about, once again, travel. So the 3rd house can be documents and things relating to passports and, actually setting up transportation and things like that. But the 3rd, the 9th, and the 12th house definitely deal with like more changeable energies and things relating to your beliefs. But what's funny is that you have them in fixed signs. So there can be a sense of being very fixed and very rigid about your beliefs. But I think what you're realizing is that the more time you're taking to rest, recuperate, and reflect, and really ask yourself if your belief systems and your philosophy really align with what you've always believed in, or if it's time to make a change, this might actually be the full moon that you end up doing that. The moon is also connected to the 2nd house. So I'm wondering if this is about you booking plane tickets, paying off something relating to a course or some kind of training. If you're finally, having to pay a final installment for something legally, maybe you're getting ready to get paid for, writing something and publishing it. These things can come up. But big decisions relating to, obviously, like I said, your belief system. And I think where this is kind of really working in your favor is the trines to your ascendant. And, keep in mind, as a Gemini rising, part of this is about learning how to be flexible and like, opening up to 2 different perspectives. So it's about being changeable and being able to kind of shift things up a little bit. If you can do that, then it's going to help you kind of move through this a little bit easier. And you're not going to get stuck in the, what do I believe in? What's really happening? Like what's blocking me? Why always me? That can kind of come with some of this square. The card that I got for you is the Sun card, which is cool because this can also be talking about Leo. I know that, having Mercury in opposition to Saturn during this particular full moon, it's not an easy one. Mercury rules your chart, so it's all about ideas and information and being able to, relay things very freely. And you're going to be feeling like, okay, there is something that's very demanding of you out in the world or in regards to your responsibilities that keep you from wanting to stay in one place physically, or you're feeling, you know, limitations at work that's keeping you from being able to do the things that you want at home or with family. And the Sun card is basically saying, like, make lemonade, right? That, you know, actually the retrograde here is helping you communicate differently. You know, maybe think about moving, maybe think about changing up the way that you relay information. Maybe you're considering making a change also in regards to your everyday life, and learning how to focus more on the things that make you happy, right? As Venus is retrograding through there. Overall, this is a positive card. It does mean that there is going to be some kind of success that's going to be coming. So maybe that you're having a breakthrough and you're realizing, like, okay, like some of the struggle has been worth it. And now I'm realizing why some of these things had to kind of fall away, so that way better things could come together. All right. Good luck for you, Gemini. We've got Cancer and Cancer rising. You'll be experiencing a full moon in the sign of Aquarius, and that will be in your 8th house. All right, so for you, my Cancers, a full moon in this sign, first of all, it conjuncts you, so it's almost kind of like in a blind spot, right? You and Aquarius don't have much in common, so sometimes when you have transits in the sign or lunations in the sign, stuff can kind of come out of nowhere. Having a full moon in the 8th house is going to bring themes revolving around joint resources, secrets, tax-related issues, things in regards to money owed and having to pay things off, and intimacy. Intimacy is a huge focus here. So a full moon that is in the 8th house, ruled by Uranus, and you have Uranus that's in the 11th. And as I've said to everyone else, we've got this kind of square that's going to be brewing. Makes me feel like there can be some strong emotional reactions revolving around changes in friendship. There can be some strong feelings intuitively about the direction of where your financial situation is going, or there is some conclusion, or there is some feedback from somebody else about what they can or cannot give you. You know, finding out if you get the loan, finding out if you're going to get the raise, making changes with you know, you and your partner's resources, and investments can also kind of come through the 8th house. It's interesting that you're having this full moon here, which is very financial, and it's in opposition to all of this energy in your 2nd house where Venus is going retrograde. So it does tell me that likely you're either spending less or having to cut back a little bit more, and you're either seeing the effects of that in a positive sense where you're saving more, or you're having to cut back, or you're having to make changes in your resources, or you're having to budget better because money that you were depending on is like not necessarily showing up as quickly. I do feel like when you have squares in the 2nd, 5th, 8th, and 11th house, this is much more about creative energies. It's much more about the action that you're putting into things that you're developing and ways that you're making money. So it's interesting that we've got, you know, Uranus is kind of like the focal point, and really what we're looking at in terms of the ruler of this moon, where, you know, because your goals revolving around how you want to make money is changing, because your friends are changing, it's going to have an impact on you either financially or emotionally in some way. And obviously when we have eclipses or, you know, new moons, full moons in the 8th house, likely there is some kind of skeleton that comes out of the closet. So watch for also like emotionally charged situations with friends that may involve money, or may involve them going through some significant life or financial changes which could impact a friendship. The card that I get for you is the Page of Cups. So this can be about you as a Cancer, but it can also be about other Cancers, Scorpios, or Pisces. This is a positive card. This is about romance. This is about connection. This is about growth emotionally, and like the first steps towards like really offering and putting yourself out there and being vulnerable. I personally think that this can be a rather sexy moon if used accordingly. You know, the 8th house can be about where you're uniting with another person and you're merging with another person, and the emotional effects that it has on you. So a lot of this can be about letting your walls down, allowing yourself to kind of get in touch with potentially a new romantic connection, or being vulnerable about your feelings or about an emotional or a financial situation can allow you to have more closeness to another person. Yes, younger people can come up with pages here as well. So I'm wondering if that there's a connection there. If there is a younger person that you're having to deal with, or if there is a sense of getting in touch with your younger self, that can be coming up here as well. Good luck, Cancer. We've got Leo and Leo rising. You will be having a full moon in Aquarius in your opposite sign in your 7th house of relationships. All right, so obviously a full moon in your 7th house can be some big decisions circulating around relationships, completions and relationships. So 7th house can be your marketplace, it can be clients, it can be your romantic partners, it can be your spouse. There can be a bit of like a make or break kind of feeling with a retrograde here, where if you're naturally, feeling like you need to take the next steps forward, you may discuss this and talk about moving forward with your significant other. For those of you guys who are single, it can be a time where you're feeling like you're really wanting partnership and relationship. People can kind of pop into your life right around this time. It can also be about your relationships that you have with friends, because it is in the sign of Aquarius. It's definitely very active for you, Leo, especially if you fall within those, 8, 9, 10 degrees, because you're going to be experiencing the square. And what's interesting is that the ruler, Uranus, is at the focal point here between a bunch of planets in your 1st house, which is about loving yourself, taking care of yourself, putting the energy back and filling in your own cup, and other people. And it looks to me like you're either really adamant about being like, okay, I want to really focus on this union. How can we come together and either be more public, 10th house? How can we merge in a way where, we're really kind of building out our future, Aquarius? It can be a really strong time also for business negotiations and relationships as well, where there is like a focus on like really committing to moving forward together. Keep in mind that, Venus is retrograde though, Leo. Okay, so if you're feeling the retrograde already, there is a whole bunch of things that are changing for you in regards to what you want and what you need. For all we know, this full moon in your 7th house could be other people responding to the fact that you're finally putting yourself first. And you might start to see that other people are like either, responding well, or kind of responding in a way that's unexpected to that, because you're not really like taking any slack from anyone. I think that this is also like just a really significant time for you professionally. Like there's so much growth going on professionally that you can be feeling like work is like dominating right now, and partners can have a lot to say about the changes that are going on with you professionally, and they may need you now more than ever. There's been a lot of energy in your 7th house recently. Pluto's been there, recently retrograded, but there are some big changes happening with relationships, and I think at the end of the day, it's going to be something that could play out in a very, visible way. And it's also going to be people responding to you making changes in what it is that you need. I think that the full moon also with Mercury in opposition to Saturn, because Saturn is the traditional ruler of the 7th house, you are also likely to be one of the signs that has a difference of opinion as, in communication with partners of what you need versus what they're willing to give. So you may feel like, whoa, there's like a bit of like a discrepancy that's going on, and making you realize that if somebody's not willing to meet you halfway, then you're going to continue on the path of this Venus retrograde of being like, okay, maybe I'm still kind of filling it out and figuring out what I want. Equally, I've seen people, solidify relationships, get engaged. I've seen people talk about getting married under these transits. I just think that the oppositions and the squares are very unusual, and likely because Uranus is destabilizing and Venus is retrograde, it's going to be a process of this unfolding over the next couple months. The card that I get for you is the 9 of Swords, which is about feeling, stuck, the 8 of Swords, getting stuck in a situation and being like, how can I get myself out of this? Perhaps maybe it's some issue in a relationship where a partner's like feeling like, okay, I don't know how to move past this, or, I can only give so much, or I'm afraid, right? That can all come up with the 8 of Swords, where there is a sense of like feeling mentally incapable or blocked. Which I think with Saturn in opposition to Mercury, it's like, oh, I can only give you so much. And then you're going to realize like, okay, it's not difficult. This is how we move together. This is what we can build together. And I do see that you're going to be encouraging, but I also know that once the sun is coming into Virgo and making oppositions to Saturn, if somebody can't get the show on the road within the next month or so, you're going to start to kind of really see the writing on the wall and maybe take a step back. Don't allow yourself to feel stuck in other people's drama. That's my advice to you. Don't let other people's insecurities rub off on you, because now is not the time for that. It's about really kind of building yourself up and knowing that anything is possible as long as you have the right partner, and them being open-minded is very important. Good luck, Leo. We've got Virgo and Virgo rising. What's up, Virgo? You're going to be having a full moon in Aquarius in your natal 6th house. And similar to Cancer, Aquarius does in conjunct or quincunx your sign. So keep in mind that Aquarius can be a little bit of a blind spot for you, okay? When you have a full moon in the 6th house, this is going to be putting a spotlight on health, schedule, coworkers, habits, and routine. So think of this as, you know, completing these things, your to-do list, making sure that you're going to the gym, getting your stuff done, taking care of the house plants and the animals. There can be changes going on the work front with your schedule, or something pertaining to coworkers. At the time of this full moon, obviously the ruler is Uranus, and you're going to see that the moon will eventually be coming into a square with Uranus. So it does make me feel like there could be changes in educational plans, changes in travel plans. There can be changes with work plans. Something is not like mashing up well with your schedule. I know there's a lot of energy going on in your 12th house, so some of you guys are choosing to kind of go into hermit mode. Some of you guys are choosing to spend more time kind of traveling abroad or being alone, really focusing on your creative projects and kind of like isolating yourself a little bit from the world. Obviously, you're getting ready for your birthday, so things kind of wind down when we get into Leo season as you're preparing for your new year. But this can also bring news revolving around, health-related things. And, you know, if you're getting health results, if you're getting feedback from your medical professionals or from your trainer, that's possible. It is also possible that, you know, you're really starting to reevaluate what it means to take care of yourself. You know, the 6th house can be more physical, but the 12th house can be more emotional. So some of you guys might be experiencing some health-related things and kind of going like, I need a break, or I need to be learning better habits, or how to better kind of take care of something because of the connection to Uranus. So if you're looking for somebody who can teach you, train you, guide you, likely this full moon is kind of bringing that up. And for those of you guys who have been working really hard, taking care of your bodies, taking care of your mind, this might be a time when you're really seeing the results. I do also feel like for you, just like Gemini, you know, the Mercury-Saturn opposition is challenging because there is a sense of somebody saying, no, not yet, I don't think so, or I'm not ready, or I'll get back to you, or they don't respond. The 6th house is 12th to the 7th. So for some of you guys, this can be like a winding down of a relationship, you know, getting ready to, you know, maybe take space from a relationship. Maybe you're already doing that. You'll see more, especially as, you know, planets come into Virgo in the next like month or so and oppose Saturn, that you're being kept from things that may not be best for you. And it can be habits, it can be lifestyles, it can be people, and it'll take the Mercury retrograde for you to really kind of sort that out. But for right now, I think this is going to be showing you like whether or not you're on the right track when it comes to productivity or when it comes to your health. You get the 6 of coins, so it's like what you get is what you give. So there is a sense of like finding balance and equilibrium. The right people can help you if you need assistance. And I like that because the 6th house does deal with the help. So if you're looking to find somebody to help you with your health, or if you're looking to hire an assistant, or if you need somebody to help you remedy a situation, likely these people can show up and help you work through this. I think it's just a matter of you being open, to be honest with you. You know, don't lose sight of the fact that Mars is in your sign. So you have the opportunity to get active and make things happen. That trine to Jupiter is saying if you want to look at the way that you live differently, if you want to travel, if you want to relocate, if you want to just have a much more positive and kind of upbeat life, it is possible. It's just a matter of you making the time for it. Everything is about balance right now with the 6 of coins coming up. And what you're putting into making these changes is likely going to yield some kind of result. Good luck, Virgo. I've got Libra rising. What's up, Libra? You're going to be having a full moon in Aquarius, which will be in your natal 5th house. If you happen to be a Libra, sun, moon, or rising, 8, 9, 10 degrees of Libra, you will be experiencing a trine for this particular full moon. Okay, so this will be a trine. Full moon in the 5th house is all going to be about, obviously, romance, children, creativity. It can be about personal projects that you're completing. It can be about falling in love. It can be about pregnancy. The 5th house full moon definitely brings this sense of joy and fulfillment. That's basically what this is all about. What's interesting is that at the time of the full moon, the ruler, Uranus, is in your 8th house. So this is shaking up things in regards to your emotional state. It's shaking up things in regards to your investments, inheritance, spousal support, child support, joint resources, taxes. And this is very financial for you, Libra, because the 5th house is where you take risks like stocks and investments. The 8th house is where you either have it pay off or you have losses. And the 11th house is the ultimate kind of like outcome of how it goes. So Uranus is the focal point of this moon by the square, being that it's a ruler. And this tells me that this is like an anything goes type of moon for you. There can be big risk, big reward. So if you're feeling like taking a chance, gambling, you know, calling up that person and telling them that you're interested and you want to go out on a date, whatever, you can take those chances during this particular full moon. I do think that for some of you guys, it can be shocks in regards to joint financial situations, also financial transactions, investments, and trading. I would be mindful that not everything is going to go the way that you want it to go, especially considering Venus, your chart ruler, is retrograde. So especially as we're coming out of the full moon on the 1st, as it goes into further into Aquarius on the 2nd, it's going to square Uranus and it's going to oppose Venus. And likely, Libra, you're going to really be feeling some kind of pull that's going on, either financially or emotionally, with a friendship situation that will be taking place the 2nd or the 3rd. I do think also that a lot of this is going to be about reevaluating the way that you look at having fun. Okay, so if you have been working hard, really dedicating a lot of time to grinding the way a lot of Libras have been, part of the Venus retrograde and the full moon here is about really kind of allowing you to go and have fun, have a good time, break free and go and do something that you enjoy and participate in a hobby, even though it might be something that might break the bank a little bit. You might spend a little bit of money having fun. There might also be a situation where you're taking time from the grind to be able to go and enjoy yourself. And so that can be the kind of financial myth that I see that might come up. And obviously with full moons in the 5th house, you know, romantic dates, falling in love. Sometimes people start talking about pregnancy or they find out they're pregnant with this particular full moon. So keep that in mind, especially if you have early degrees of Libra and if you have any personal planets that are going to be around those degrees of Aquarius. The card that I got for you is the King of Wands, which is interesting because this can be an Aries, Leo, or a Sag. So it can be about another person. And I'm looking at this Venus retrograde in your 11th house, Libra, and I'm wondering, is there somebody from the past that you're going to be hearing from? You know, the Venus retrograde for single Libras can be like that reconnection with somebody that you run into at a party, or it was like the one that got away that you like connect to on social media in some way. So there is a possibility that there's like some soulmate action here, or connecting with somebody that might be coming back around. This can also be about you really channeling your inner creative energies and really kind of putting them forth and like feeling like you're mastering something. So if you've been working hard on a creative project, finally you're kind of seeing the fruit of all of the hard work that you've been kind of putting forward. And fire signs might be showing up to help you kind of with that process of like either celebrating it or launching it. And you might be receiving a lot of support from other creative people kind of within your friend group. Good luck, Libra. For Scorpio and Scorpio rising, you will be experiencing a full moon in Aquarius taking place in your natal 4th house of home, family, property, real estate, and the past. Oh, my Scorpios. Obviously, you know how this goes, right? So like the last, up until this period of time, earlier this year when Saturn went into Pisces, 2020 to 2023, you had Saturn in Aquarius. And you've probably felt for the last several years that you have been more homebound, you've been more limited, there's been more home or family or parent responsibilities because Saturn was going through that sign. And you saw it square off with Uranus where there was changes in relationships, and square off with your ascendant and there was changes with you. So similar energy here temporarily, okay? So stay with me. When this full moon hits, obviously it's going to be in your 4th house and it's completing something. So some of you guys might have completions with home, family, emotions, or the past. For some of you guys, it's selling your house, moving house, it's going back home, visiting family. For others, it's going to be really intense, sudden emotions that are going to come up in regards to the past. It can also be some things going on with family and relatives. This can also be about just changes that are going on within the home. Aquarius is electrical, so it can be that stuff. It can also be celebrations and parties and get-togethers and people being in your space, right? Because it's full. Now, what's interesting, especially if you're Scorpio rising within the first 10 degrees, you're going to feel this much more strongly. The full moon comes in, it's ruled by Uranus, and the moon is going to be square Uranus and in opposition to Venus. So you're one of the signs that's really going to feel this pretty strongly. You're really going to be feeling it on the back end too, like the 2nd and the 3rd of August, where the moon will then continue to move through Aquarius and it's going to square Uranus. So it's basically saying happenings in the home are going to disrupt either your spouse, your partners. It can also be about, relationships with relatives, and it will also make an opposition to Venus. Take it easy, 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, because there can be some really highlighted tension and emotions in the home, which can disrupt relationships, and it can also create some challenges when it comes to your professional life, because this is going to be a moon that will ultimately oppose Venus, which is retrograding in your 10th house of career. What does it mean? Basically, something's changing, right? There's something that's getting ready to change pretty significantly with the direction of your career. It's hard to say if it's you that's the one that's going back to an old job, or you are reevaluating what you want to be doing professionally, or maybe you're taking a bit of a hiatus from work, and the impact that that's having on either your relationship or on your home life. But like I said, Uranus is the focal point. So because it's squaring, it's either friends, relationships, or family members that are creating some challenges for you when it comes to being able to find the balance between house and home. And career. So you got to kind of have to ride this wave. Know that this is a slow process of Venus going through her retrograde, unfolding in your 10th house, where there is some status change. So it can be changes in your relationship status, like going from being single to being in a significant relationship, going from working from, for yourself to working with a partner. Partnerships are being highlighted right now. So even though you might find that other people are challenging you because they're trying to get you to rethink the direction that you're going, either with your career or your status. So what's going to happen is that change going on in the world is not only going to impact your relationships, but it's also going to impact your home. So things like taking a job somewhere else, relocating, meeting someone that lives in a different place, considering committing, and then how that impacts where you're living, right? So they all kind of affect each other. So you get the Ace of Cups. I guess most readers would say with this coming up in this situation that love can conquer all. It is possible that if there is a lot of love and devotion or commitment to a partnership of some kind, or somebody who you're working with, that love will find a way that you can, remedy the situation. This is the opportunity for fresh starts, for starting over in relationships and being able to kind of perhaps clear the air, right? Especially considering the fact that, Scorpio is the midpoint for both Leo as well as Aquarius. So you may find that your actions lead to some dynamic things, which are kind of showing you whether you can grow closer in a relationship or if you're growing apart. The cards seem to be positive, though, that it is possible for you to be able to remedy the situation and really focus on strengthening some of your relationships. Even though there is lots of action with the ruler being in the 7th house, this can be with relationships with family members as well. So keep that in mind. Good luck, Scorpio. For Sagittarius and Sagittarius rising, you're going to have a full moon in Aquarius in your natal 3rd house. And a full moon here brings opportunity revolving around siblings, vehicle, travels, communication, okay? So completing these things. Some of you guys might decide that you're going on a road trip. Some of you guys might purchase a gadget. Others might decide that there is some huge shift going on in how they share information, or there is some news they're putting out on social media. Maybe you're moving, things like that can be kind of going down. And the ruler of Aquarius obviously is Uranus, and Uranus is hanging out in your 6th house. So to me, it seems like there is some energy of things kind of getting kind of jumbled when it comes to your schedule, and you're kind of on the move and you're trying to make things happen. But at the same time, there's either change going on with your schedule or your workplace, or there's some changes that are going on even with your health or with like your habits. And this is the focal point of this particular full moon. Now you've got the sun and also Venus hanging out in your 9th house. Similar to the other mutable signs, this is very much about information and your belief system and learning. And all roads point to this 6th house here, where it's really saying conversations, communications, trips, ideas lead to you having new levels of awareness of, you know, how you can make your schedule better, how you can have more productivity, how you can remedy certain health issues, certain issues also when it comes to diet, because Taurus can be about food. It can also be just having to go and deal with like your to-do list, and it may be a day where you're just kind of getting agitated because you have things that you need to get done, but there's things that might be kind of causing some problems. Electrical issues with vehicles kind of come to mind with a full moon in your 3rd house and Uranus being in the 6th. There can also be just, you know, delays in communication or issues with the internet, problems with electronics, the list goes on. So keep in mind that this is a day where your schedule is probably going to shift a little bit. There can be scheduling issues also where there's delays with travel or education. So if that's something that you're going to be participating in, I could definitely see some schedule changes or some shifts revolving around where you're going and when. That can be a little challenging, but you'll be able to navigate it. The beauty is that, you know, Aquarius does sextile Sagittarius. So if you have early degrees Sagittarius, you know, 8, 9, 10 degrees, that sextile from the moon is actually going to be beneficial. It's about being kind of positive and optimistic about the fact that you can create change. Many of you guys have been trying to change your routine here for a little bit, and you're finally having a breakthrough. And some of you guys are going to have to put in a little extra work during this full moon and communicate with people at work and be able to kind of send out the emails and have the meetings and stuff, so you can eventually either, you know, go and take your trip, or, you know, go and take your class or do your training and have a little bit of a break. Okay. The card that I get is the Two of Wands. So that's basically being like strategizing, planning, okay, you know, how are we going to remedy this situation? How are we going to be able to make this happen moving forward? Thinking on your feet, but being optimistic. I think that's the beneficial thing of Jupiter in your 6th house right now, is that you're really optimistic about being able to kind of like remedy problems and making the most of your schedule and staying open and staying flexible. The fixed signs are not flexible. So the beauty is that it looks like you at least have like some kind of stable either work or fitness or health routine, so you can navigate some of the mental stresses that might come with a full moon like this. Don't underestimate Venus and the sun being in a sister sign, okay? These planets being in the 9th house are trining you, and we're also going to see Venus trining the North Node. So there's lots opening up where it's like, actually, you know, travel is actually what's necessary to be able to kind of keep the creative fires burning. And as long as you're really making that the focus, travel or education, you know, you can overcome anything and be able to move forward. So a lot of this, I think, is about strategizing and planning. And many Sagittarius, as I know, are planning clear into the end of the year right now. And I think that that's beneficial, especially to be able to get everything done that you want to get done. Good luck. We've got Capricorn and Capricorn rising. You will be having a full moon in Aquarius taking place in your second house. So the second house is going to all be about spending power, possessions, self-esteem, purchases, things revolving around your financial situation coming to a head. So generally I see like big payouts or things being due or something coming up revolving around personal fulfillment and like really focusing on strengthening your self-esteem. Obviously, this is also in polarity to all this energy in your 8th house where you have a Venus retrograde. And the moon is always interesting because it does involve your relationships to other people. So having a full moon here can definitely be a bit of a back and forth that you're having about your finances versus somebody else's finances. Whether that's like a partner or the bank or, you know, a child asking you for money or reevaluating your resources relating to, you know, children or investments, that can be coming up here as well. The ruler at the time of this moon is Aquarius, or excuse me, Uranus. And Uranus is in a square slightly, or will be, you know, the second going into the third just after this full moon. So what you've got going on here is a square that is a T-square focal point. And these are financial houses. The second house is what you possess. The 5th house is taking chances. The 8th house is the payoff. So likely, you know, you've been working on creative projects. You've been putting something together. You're hustling in some way, maybe starting a side business, maybe working for yourself, and trying to find ways to generate more money. And so you might find that that's actually really starting to pay off during this particular full moon. Obviously, you know, the Venus retrograde in the 8th house tells me that maybe you're still working out all the kinks as to how this will work and, you know, when the right time to launch may be. And so you might still kind of be working on it behind the scenes, but I do think that come the fall, something is going to be a little bit more obvious. Also, now the South Node is moving through your 10th house. So a lot of Capricorn risings are going through huge status changes, big changes at work. And this is ruled by Venus, which is retrograde. So some of you guys are also in the beginning process of finding out, okay, you know, there's changes going on at work. There might be changes going on in regards to funding or some financial cuts. And you're starting to kind of realize like how changes at work may be impacting or affecting your bottom line financially. All of this is pushing all that energy to the 5th house. That's saying be creative, be authentic, share, do something different. Don't feel like you have to do something because you're responding out of fear. Do something because it brings you joy, it's creative, and likely it might also be something that pays off. Now, I'm aware that Mercury and Saturn are in opposition at the time of this particular full moon, and you're ruled by Saturn. So as Mercury is coming into an opposition, I feel like that there may be like a misunderstanding or a miscommunication, something being off in regards to the timing or just the flow of how you're relating to someone. It can be a coworker, it can be a manager, it can be somebody who generally gives you some pretty positive feedback. And you might be saying, no, it doesn't work for me. No, read the contract. No, look at the details. And so there can be some communication issues here. But for the most part, I think that even if there is some surprise financial situation that's coming up, likely it's going to be something that is either because there is something owed to you, or maybe you're getting like a retirement or like a severance package, like something's being offered to you if you are potentially going to go through some kind of a change. So somebody else will be bringing you resources, or something else is going to be blessing you, making it possible for you to go through this kind of transition at this time. I know that the North and the South Node are squaring you. I know it's been intense really since the latter part of July. You're going to continue to keep feeling that because Pluto is the focal point of this square. So keep in mind that everything right now is about accepting the things that you cannot change and being more in tune with, okay, if things are going to change, you know, how do I make lemonade, right? Let's see what the cards say for you. get the Knight of Wands. So this is possibly about an Aries, a Leo, or a Sagittarius. But this can be news coming very quickly. This can be having to be on the move, having to think on your feet, being creative, and responding to someone or something. Lots of action in your ninth house. I mean, you know, it is beneficial for Capricorn, Sun, Moon, and Rising, because you're experiencing trines to the ninth house, which can be travel, it can be legal, it can be also things revolving around teaching, educating, publishing, and then also trines to the fifth house. So it's possible that some of these creative projects can allow you to teach, or can allow you to get certifications, it can allow you to travel. So this is kind of about being on the move. So I wonder if it's connecting to Mars being in your ninth house and really kind of showing up for, you know, being open to changing, you know, the way that you learn, or changing even your location, because Mars rules your fourth house. So likely life is going to get quite busy. And maybe you have to make some financial decisions on the road, but I'm pretty confident that you're going to be able to think on your feet throughout this transit. Good luck, Aquarius. Capricorn. Now on to Aquarius. Sorry, Capricorn. Now on to Aquarius. You guys are going to be having a full moon in your sign. And this is going to drive me crazy, so let me take this back. Okay, there we go. So you're having a full moon in your sign. It will be taking place around 9-10 degrees of Aquarius. So if you have a sun, moon, or rising around 9 or 10 degrees, be mindful that this is going to be more impactful for you. A full moon in your sign is about a personal completion. So you are finishing something up. It may be about your body. It may be about your appearance. It might also be about your self-expression and personal fulfillment of some kind. So it's bringing all of the attention to you. Interesting, because at the time of the full moon, we have quite a few planetary things going on in regards to your seventh house of relationships. So the sun is going through the seventh house, shining on partners, you know, connections, love interest, commitment, and Venus will also be retrograding. So there's a lot of like reconnecting, reevaluating, thinking about who you want to spend time with, what you want in a relationship, and really seeing very clearly what is and is not working in regards to your relationship to others. Can be romantic partners, committed partners, and it can also be your relationship to creative collaborations or children. Now, Uranus rules this particular moon, and Uranus rules your sign as well. So it's kind of doubly focused on you, Aquarius. And Uranus is in your fourth house, so you're going to see that Jupiter is actually first going to receive the square from the moon. So things are going to feel big during the time of the full moon. When the moon's in your first house, you can be moody. There can be a sense of you feeling like emotionally more reactionary, or kind of going through a variation of moods. And then we're going to see the moon come into a square with Uranus. So you'll see that kind of get picked up more on the second and the third. But basically what this means is that, you know, Uranus is like the focal point of this sudden, dramatic, unexpected change or shifts that are going on in the home front. That's potentially allowing you to make better decisions about what your needs are versus other people. Uranus in the fourth house can have you moving a couple times. It can have some kind of craziness going on with, you know, neighbors or with roommates or with people in the home. You are Uranus, so it can be about you feeling a little restless and wanting out of the house a little bit, wanting to go and, you know, kind of see the world and get out a little bit. And I do think what's interesting is that it's also going to be impacting these transits in the seventh house. So, you know, this isn't just limited to just the full moon for you. This might be an experience that you're having, you know, clear for the next month or so with the, you know, Sun, Uranus squares, and then ultimately the Venus retrograde. Relationships are playing a huge role right now in how you respond to things and also how you're living. If you're single, people can be suddenly coming into your life, you know, wanting to kind of partner with you and encouraging you to get out of the past or make changes in your home or living situation. And it's all about, during this full moon, does it work for you? How are you responding to these changes in your relationships and also your home front? And what is going on with your body, and how your emotions are actually trying to get your attention, because they can be telling you that there needs to be like a release of something, right? Because to me, this seems like there's like a lot of pressure. My advice is like the first, second, and third, just really pay attention. Likely you're going to see that some of your emotions can definitely bring about some challenges in relationships and with people on the home front. And this is really a personal time of transformation. Like I said, if you go back to that new moon we had earlier this year, it was in close proximity to Pluto. So all of the Aquarius risings felt that. It was about a fresh start, and now you're starting to see the effects of that new moon and how the decisions and the intentions that you've been setting for yourself are kind of almost a little bit at odds with partners and also a little bit at odds with your living situation. So it might be like not a rude awakening, but definitely like a reality check that's like, okay, this is where I wanted to be 6 months ago. Am I feeling good here? If I'm not, what am I changing? And how are my partners or how are my family members or my home life going to respond to some of the changes that I feel like I need to make? Let's see what the cards say for you. I get the Page of Swords. So this can be for you. This can be about an air sign, but it can also be about a Gemini or a Libra as well. This is about speaking up and saying something, which I think is important, but at the same time, I don't necessarily know if you're going to get the best feedback. Definitely with planets going through your 7th house, opposing your sign, you're going to be feeling like you're getting feedback from people anyway. But having Mercury in opposition to Saturn, which is your traditional ruler, also can be a little bit of an ouch. Because you're kind of limited with what you're willing to give or how much you're willing to open up or how much you're, willing to share. And you may have other people that are kind of, prying, trying to talk to you, trying to kind of get information, trying to kind of take your temperature on things. And you can be like, no. So the Page of Swords can be about, whether or not you're opening up to communicating in new ways and what you're learning about your emotions and what they're telling you in regards to, maybe being better about speaking up and having conversations when they need to be had. I definitely think that's going to be a theme for you throughout this particular transit. And I'm encouraging you to not just respond to your emotions, right? If you're just responding in an emotional way, it's going to cause some drama. You're definitely going to see that it's going to be a little emotionally charged. Instead, take time to really think things through as you communicate with people and create the space to be able to, communicate in a new way and kind of let go of some of those tendencies to just to react off of other people. And obviously with retrogrades going through your 7th house, a lot of people are going through their own personal changes of their own. So it's a lot of maybe you observing, and when other people come in and try to project onto you, you might go, nope, that's not mine, instead of kind of like mirroring that back to them, right? Good luck. And we've got Pisces and Pisces rising. A full moon taking place in Aquarius in your natal 12th house, which is hidden, it's secretive, it's subconscious, it is your dreams, it is private spaces. That is what the 12th house is. It may be a time where you're feeling like a little cagey. You might be feeling like you're kind of, feeling a little stressed. That can definitely come up with this time. But the 12th house is about where we're completing things, we're releasing things, we're letting things go, especially stuff that may potentially need to go because it kind of hangs over us. And at the time of this moon, we've got Venus and the Sun in your 6th house of health and fitness and your daily routine in opposition to the moon. So it does tell me that there can be a sense of like maybe taking space from partners. There can also be a sense of feeling like you're really tending to your emotional health, your spiritual health. You need more rest, you need more recuperation. You can be feeling the effects of too much work, too much stress, or too many schedule changes. Obviously, the ruler of this moon is Uranus, and we are going to see squares between the moon and Uranus, which does kind of indicate that there is this need to speak up, say something, communicate, share. It can also talk about blind spots with the moon being in your 12th house. So I would say be mindful. If you're, driving, if you're traveling, if you're on the road, make sure you're just really well rested and that, you're getting adequate sleep before you're driving or traveling. There can be some visibility issues here. Also, there can be unexpected, dreams that can pop up or hunches or feelings that can be symbolic that are meant to be giving you a sense of like advice or direction to help you feel more grounded. And you're also going to be feeling the effects of Mercury, which is relationships, in opposition to Saturn in your sign. So there is a sense of like being really adamant about your boundaries and your needs, and maybe feeling a little bit more protective of your space and your time right now. And other people may be trying to reach you, or might be trying to reach out to you, or asking you for help, or partners calling you, coworkers calling you, and you're like, I'm turning off the phone, I need some space. So if you're feeling like that during the time of the full moon, or if you're feeling a little under the weather, especially if you're mentally stressed, please rest and recuperate. Some of you guys may notice that there might be issues going on with feeling mentally stressed, with communicating. There can also be a sense of having issues, sometimes even with your voice and with your throat, believe it or not, with some of these squares, and just feeling like anything you say is coming out wrong. So if that's coming up for you, definitely take time to rest, recuperate, reflect on things before kind of coming back up for air. You will see that when we get into the new moon in Leo 2 weeks after this full moon, that's when you're setting new intentions and goals, and you're more kind of tapped into what's going on with your health. But 2 retrogrades, well, Saturn retrograde in your first and Venus retrograde in your sixth, tells me that there's something that's changing about what your health looks like, what your schedule looks like, and much more about kind of tending to the self and focusing on productivity. It's not as much about other people. So there's a lot of getting your own ducks in a row right now as a result of this, and it might mean that you need to take some time to kind of rest and recuperate before you're able to fully kind of meet other people. Don't let other people kind of invade your private space. That's my advice. And if you feel like you need to check out, do a social media detox with this, or just feeling like you need to turn off the phone and get a good night's sleep, that is definitely recommended. The card that I get for you is the Wheel of Fortune. So it's kind of saying like everything's going according to plan. Certain things are completing. There is a sense of karma or fate playing a role in the situations right now. I do feel like this is positive though. It can be about like clearing out old karmic patterns, which is very much the 12th house, especially if it's old ways of thinking or subconscious fears or issues with being able to communicate or express yourself. I think this is also about having a little bit of faith in the universe and knowing that the things that are taking place are actually trying to align you with healthier habits and also trying to give you more peace of mind. Good luck. Hopefully that was helpful for you guys. I'm excited to see what this wacky and wild full moon is going to do, because if there's one thing I know about the moon in Aquarius, it's always going to go its own way. So be mindful of the, like I said, the after effects that you're going to see the 2 days following this particular full moon. You can always come back here and leave comments and let me know how it plays out for you and what you're feeling. As much as I want to stay on topic with this moon, I keep looking at this and all I see is that new moon in Leo, and I want to show it to you guys as a preview with what's going to be happening when we have that. Okay, because we are going to have a new moon in Leo right around the time that the new like the Cazimi, the Venus star point, is emerging with a Venus retrograde. This is when we get back to, okay, but what do I need? What's going to work best for me? What's going to make me happy? What likely you're going to be experiencing with this full moon is that things are kind of falling apart a little bit, and things feel like, oh my God, is it Mr. Toad's Wild Ride? Like, this is crazy town. Let the crazy stuff happen. Know that the next 2 weeks is about really kind of breaking all of that down so we can get back into the heart-centered space of figuring out what's best for us on an individual level. But for now, we have to deal with some outside craziness. Leave me your comments below. I'd love to hear from you. And as always, thank you guys for your likes, your comments, your shares. I really appreciate all of your guys' kind words on the channel, and we've seen so much growth. So please continue to keep sharing this, these videos or this channel with people who would really benefit. If you guys like my work, please consider donating or joining my memberships, and you can check out beyondtheveiltarot.com. If you guys would like to book a personal one-on-one reading with me, I have openings now in September and October 2023. Until next time, I will see all of you guys very soon. On Thursday, we're going to do part 2 of the Venus retrograde, and we're going to take a look at what's going on with some of those transits and some of my predictions. But for those of you guys who still have not seen my Venus retrograde webinar, it's on sale on my website. You guys can take that, take a look at that before the retrograde actually begins on the 22nd. All right, that's it for me. I'll see you guys next time. Take care.